The rain came down like broken glass, cold and relentless, drumming against the park bench where Daniel held his daughter close, whispering promises he wasn't sure he could keep. Emma was only 6 years old, and she deserved so much more than this. More than a cardboard sheet for a blanket. More than a father who couldn't even afford to keep her warm. But as she slept against his chest, her tiny fingers clutching his worn jacket, Daniel swore to himself that he would never ever let her go. He had been someone once, a carpenter with steady hands in a small apartment that smelled like sawdust and coffee. But when the construction company went under and the medical bills from Emma's pneumonia stacked higher than he could climb, everything collapsed like a house built on sand. First the apartment, then his truck, then his pride. Now, 3 months later, they lived beneath the stars, and Daniel worked whatever odd jobs he could find while keeping Emma close. Always close because she was all he had left in this world. The streetlight above them flickered, casting long shadows across the empty park. It was past midnight, and the city had grown quiet except for the occasional car passing by, headlights sweeping across them like searchlights hunting for something lost. Daniel tucked the cardboard tighter around Emma's small shoulders, feeling her shiver even in sleep. His own body ached with cold, but he didn't dare move. If he stayed still enough, maybe she would stay warm. If he held her tight enough, maybe she wouldn't remember this when she grew up. "Daddy," she murmured without opening her eyes, her voice soft as cotton. "Are we going home soon?" The words split his heart clean down the middle. "Soon, sweetheart," he whispered, pressing his lips to her damp hair. Real soon? He never imagined anyone was watching, but she was. Eleanor Chen stood beneath the awning of her late-night office building, her designer coat pulled tight against the rain, her eyes fixed on the bench across the street. She had worked until midnight again, another board meeting, another acquisition, another victory that felt hollow the moment she achieved it. She was 42 years old, the CEO of a tech company worth hundreds of millions, and she went home every night to a daughter who barely looked up from her phone in a house so large it echoed with loneliness. But something about the man on that bench made her stop walking to her car. It was the way he held the child, like she was made of light. Like if he let go for even a second, she would disappear. Eleanor had seen homeless people before, of course she had. This was the city, but she had always looked away, always told herself there were systems in place, charities, shelters, reasons why it wasn't her responsibility. But tonight, watching that father shield his daughter from the rain with nothing but his own body, something inside her broke open. She thought of her own daughter, Lily, 12 years old and angry at the world. Angry at Eleanor for working too much. Angry at her father for leaving them 5 years ago. Angry at everything. Before she could talk herself out of it, Eleanor crossed the street. Daniel saw her coming and immediately tensed. A woman in expensive clothes walking toward them at this hour meant trouble. He'd learned that lesson the hard way. Some people pitied them.
Some people called the police.
Some people took pictures for social media, turning suffering into content. "Please," he said quietly, his voice rough. "We're not bothering anyone. We'll be gone in the morning." Eleanor stopped a few feet away, the rain soaking into her hair. Up close, she could see the exhaustion carved into his face, the love in the way his arms wrapped around the sleeping child. "I'm not here to make you leave," she said softly. Daniel didn't respond. He just held Emma tighter. Eleanor crouched down, bringing herself to eye level, and for a long moment she just looked at them, at the little girl's face peaceful in sleep, at the father's trembling hands, raw and red from the cold. "What's her name?" Eleanor asked. "Emma." His voice was barely a whisper. "She's beautiful." Daniel's jaw tightened. "If you're going to call someone, just do it. But please, don't wake her up." "I'm not calling anyone." Eleanor reached into her purse, and Daniel flinched, but she only pulled out a business card. She held it out to him, rain spotting the white paper. "My name is Eleanor Chen. I have a large house about 20 minutes from here. Too large, honestly. Just me and my daughter." Daniel stared at the card like it might bite him. Eleanor took a breath. What she was about to say was insane. She knew it was insane, but sometimes the heart knows things the mind hasn't caught up to yet. She leaned closer and whispered so quietly the rain almost swallowed the words. "Come live with me and my daughter." The world seemed to stop spinning. Daniel's eyes went wide. "What?" "Just for tonight," Eleanor added quickly, seeing the fear flash across his face. You don't have to decide anything. But it's warm. There's food, a bed. Your daughter needs to be warm. We're not. Daniel struggled to form words. You don't know us. Why would you? Because if that were my daughter on that bench, I would pray someone would help her. Eleanor's voice cracked just slightly. Please, let me help you. Daniel looked down at Emma, at her small face pressed against his chest, at the way she shivered even in sleep. Every instinct screamed at him to say no. This woman was a stranger. This could be a trap. People didn't just offer homes to homeless people out of kindness. There was always a catch, always something they wanted. But Emma shivered again, and Daniel felt something inside him crumble. Just for tonight, he heard himself say. And if anything feels wrong, we leave. No questions asked. No questions asked, Eleanor agreed. What he didn't. No, what she couldn't bring herself. To say standing there in the rain. Was that 5 years ago? Eleanor's husband had walked out on them. And 3 years ago, her younger brother had died homeless in a city 2,000 miles away. By the time she found out, it was too late. She never got to help him. Never got to bring him home. Maybe this was her chance to save someone. The car ride was silent except for the soft sound of Emma's breathing. Daniel sat in the back seat with her in his lap, his hand protectively on her head, watching the city lights blur past the window. Eleanor drove carefully, occasionally glancing at them in the rearview mirror. Does she know? Eleanor asked quietly. About your situation? She knows we're on an adventure, Daniel said, his voice tight with shame. She thinks we're camping. I couldn't bring myself to tell her the truth. Eleanor's hands tightened on the steering wheel. You're a good father. A good father would have a home for his daughter. A good father loves his daughter. Everything else is just circumstances. Daniel didn't respond, but something in his chest loosened just a little. The house was exactly what he expected, massive, modern, glowing with warm light behind floor-to-ceiling windows. It looked like something from a magazine. The kind of place people like him only saw from the outside. As they pulled into the driveway, Emma stirred awake. Daddy? She mumbled, blinking up at him with confused eyes. Where are we? We're at a friend's house, sweetheart, Daniel said, smoothing her hair. Just for tonight. Emma looked around at the big house, her eyes going wide. It's like a palace. Eleanor smiled despite herself as she opened the car door. Not quite a palace, but there are warm beds and hot chocolate if you'd like some. At the mention of hot chocolate, Emma perked up. Really? Really. They walked inside, and the warmth hit them like a physical thing. Daniel felt his frozen muscles begin to ache as they thawed. Emma pressed against his leg, suddenly shy in this beautiful, unfamiliar place. A girl appeared at the top of the stairs, tall, dark-haired, with her mother's eyes and a guarded expression. Lily. She looked down at them, taking in Daniel's worn clothes, Emma's too small jacket, the cardboard still clutched in his hands. Mom? Lily's voice was uncertain. What's going on? These are our guests, Eleanor said calmly. Daniel and Emma, they're going to stay with us for a while. Lily's eyes narrowed. You can't just bring random homeless people into our house. Lily, Eleanor's voice was sharp. Guest room now, we'll talk in a minute. But Emma, sweet Emma, who saw kindness in everyone, stepped forward and looked up at Lily with wonder. You're so pretty, she said softly. Like a princess. Something in Lily's expression shifted. She looked at this tiny girl with her honest eyes and her too small jacket, and her defensive walls cracked just a little. Thanks, Lily muttered. Then softer. You want to see my room? I have stuffed animals. Emma looked up at Daniel, asking permission with her eyes. He nodded, and she scampered up the stairs with Lily, leaving Daniel and Eleanor standing in the foyer. The silence stretched between them. Daniel started. Let me show you the bathroom, Eleanor interrupted gently. You can both take warm showers. I'll find some clothes. Daniel wanted to protest, wanted to say they didn't need charity, but he was so tired and Emma needed to be clean, and he couldn't remember the last time he'd felt truly warm. Thank you, he whispered, and the words cost him everything. The shower was the closest thing to heaven Daniel had experienced in months. He stood under the hot water until it ran cold, watching 3 months of street dirt swirl down the drain. When he finally emerged, there were clean clothes waiting on the counter, sweatpants and a t-shirt. Simple but soft. He found Emma in the kitchen, wrapped in an oversized bathrobe, her damp hair combed back, sipping hot chocolate with both hands while Eleanor made grilled cheese sandwiches. She looked so small at the big marble counter, her legs swinging, not quite reaching the floor. "Daddy," she exclaimed when she saw him. "This is the best hot chocolate ever." Daniel's throat tightened. "That's great, baby." Eleanor slid a sandwich across the counter to him. "Eat, please." He wanted to refuse, pride demanded it, but his stomach betrayed him with a loud growl. Emma giggled, and Daniel found himself sitting down, picking up the sandwich with trembling hands. It was just bread and cheese, nothing fancy, but it tasted like hope. They ate in comfortable silence, Emma chattering about the stuffed animals in Lily's room, about the big bathtub, about how soft the towels were. She was happy. For the first time in months, his daughter was happy, and Daniel felt tears prick his eyes. Eleanor noticed. She always noticed. "Lily's getting the guest room ready," she said quietly. "There's a queen bed. You'll both fit." "We can't," Daniel started. "You can. You will." Eleanor met his eyes. "Tomorrow we'll talk about what comes next. But tonight, you're going to sleep in a warm bed. Both of you." What she said next would stay with him forever. "I lost my brother 3 years ago," Eleanor said, her voice steady but her eyes distant. "He was homeless. I didn't know until it was too late. I never got to help him. I never got to bring him home." She looked at Daniel, really looked at him. "Let me do this. Not for you, for me, because I need to know that someone out there is getting the help he never got." In that moment, something inside Daniel began to heal. "Okay," he whispered, "okay." The bed was enormous and impossibly soft. Emma fell asleep the moment her head hit the pillow, burrowed under blankets that smelled like lavender. Daniel lay beside her, staring at the ceiling, his hand resting on her back to feel her breathe. This wasn't real. It couldn't be real. Tomorrow they would wake up on the bench again. This would all be a dream brought on by the cold and exhaustion. But Emma was warm. She was safe. And for tonight, that was enough. Downstairs, Eleanor stood in her office, looking at the photo on her desk. Her brother smiling from before everything went wrong. Before the addiction, before the streets, before the phone call that shattered her world. "I'm trying, Tommy," she whispered to the photo. "I'm trying." Behind her, Lily appeared in the doorway. "Mom?" Eleanor turned, wiping her eyes quickly. "Lily, I'm sorry I didn't explain." "The little girl," Lily interrupted. "Emma. She reminds me of the way I used to be. Before Dad left." Her voice was small, vulnerable in a way it hadn't been in years. "She still believes in good things." Eleanor's heart broke and mended all at once. "We could all use a little of that." Lily nodded slowly. "Can they really stay? Not just tonight?" "If they want to. If they'll let us help." "Good." Lily turned to leave, then paused. "The dad, Daniel. He looks at Emma the way I wish Dad had looked at me." "I know, sweetheart, I know." The next morning, Daniel woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the smell of pancakes. For a moment, panic seized him. Where was he? Where was Emma? But then he saw her curled up beside him, still sleeping, and the memories of last night came flooding back. It was real. It had actually happened. He found Eleanor in the kitchen, making breakfast like it was the most natural thing in the world. Lily was setting the table, and Emma was there too, awake now, helping with the syrup bottles. "Good morning," Eleanor said warmly. "I hope you slept well." Daniel didn't know what to say, how to respond to this kindness that felt too big to hold. Yes, thank you. But we can't impose any longer." "Sit," Eleanor pointed to a chair. "Eat breakfast. Then we'll talk." They ate together, all 4 of them, like a strange patchwork family that didn't quite fit but somehow worked anyway. Emma and Lily were chattering about cartoons. Eleanor was asking Daniel about his carpentry experience. "I used to be good at it," Daniel said quietly, "before everything fell apart." "There's a community center I help fund," Eleanor said carefully. "They need someone to help with building repairs, teaching woodworking classes to kids. It's not much, but it's steady work, if you're interested." Daniel stared at her. "Why are you doing this?" "Because everyone deserves a second chance." Eleanor's voice was firm. "Because your daughter deserves to see her father build something again. Because I have more than I need and you need more than you have, and that seems like something we should fix. I can't take advantage of—" "You're not taking advantage of anything. I'm offering." "There's a difference," she paused. "Stay, a month. 2 months. However long you need. There's an apartment above the garage. It's yours if you want it. Work at the community center, save money, get back on your feet. Let Emma go to school. Let yourself heal. Daniel felt his carefully constructed walls crumbling. I don't understand why you'd do this for strangers. Eleanor smiled sadly. You stopped being strangers the moment I saw you in that park. He looked at Emma, laughing at something Lily said, her face bright and clean and full of joy. He thought about the bench, the cold, the fear. He thought about pride and shame and what really mattered. One condition, Daniel said quietly. Name it. I pay rent, even if it's small, even if it's just helping around the house. I need to contribute. I need to feel like a man again. Eleanor extended her hand across the table. Deal. They shook on it and Daniel felt something shift in his chest. Not quite hope yet, but maybe the beginning of it. The weeks that followed were strange and wonderful and terrifying all at once. Daniel moved into the apartment above the garage with Emma, and slowly, carefully, they began to build a life. He started working at the community center, teaching kids how to measure twice and cut once, how to sand rough edges smooth. Emma enrolled in first grade, coming home every day with stories and artwork and the kind of childhood she deserved. Eleanor and Lily became constants in their lives. Dinners together several times a week. Movie nights. Homework at the kitchen counter. Emma teaching Lily how to make friendship bracelets. Daniel fixing the fence, the porch railing, the loose board on the deck. And somewhere in all of that, between the shared meals and the quiet conversations and the way Eleanor's eyes crinkled when she laughed, Daniel felt his heart begin to wake up. It started small. The way she remembered how he took his coffee. The way she asked about his day and actually listened. The way she looked at Emma with genuine affection, not pity. The way she never made him feel less than, never made him feel like a charity case. One evening, 2 months after that rainy night in the park, Daniel found Eleanor in the garden, pulling weeds as the sun set. Can I help? He asked. She looked up, surprised, then smiled. Always. They worked in comfortable silence for a while. And then Daniel said, I've been saving money. The job at the community center. They want to make me full-time. Benefits, steady income. Daniel, that's wonderful. I'll be able to find a place for Emma and me soon. Maybe by the end of the summer. Eleanor's smile faltered just for a moment. Oh, of course. That's great. I'm happy for you. But she didn't sound happy. She sounded sad. Daniel took a breath. This was the scariest thing he'd done since that night in the park. Scarier even than accepting help. Because this time he was choosing to hope. Unless, he said quietly, unless you wanted us to stay. Eleanor's hand stilled in the dirt. Stay? Lily and Emma, they're like sisters now. And you and I? He struggled to find the words. I never thought I'd feel this way again. Never thought I deserved to. But when I'm with you, Eleanor, I feel like maybe I could be whole again. Like maybe we could be a family, Eleanor finished, her voice barely a whisper. Yeah. She looked at him. This man who had come into her life broken and afraid, who had slowly become the best part of her days, who made her laugh, who listened when she talked about work stress, who understood loss because he'd lived it. I think we already are, she said. Daniel reached for her hand and she took it, their fingers intertwining in the dirt and the fading light. I love you, he said. The words felt huge and terrifying and absolutely true. I love you too, Eleanor whispered. I think I have since that night in the park. Inside the house, Emma and Lily were watching through the window, grinning at each other. Told you, Lily said smugly. They're gonna kiss, Emma giggled. Gross, Lily said, but she was smiling. They did kiss, soft and careful, like they were handling something precious. And maybe they were. Maybe they were handling the fragile, beautiful thing that happens when broken people help each other heal. 6 months later, Daniel stood in the backyard, building a treehouse for Emma and Lily. Eleanor brought him lemonade and kissed his cheek, and he paused to watch Emma play, laughing and whole and safe. He thought about that night in the park, about the rain and the cold and the feeling that the world had forgotten them, about a woman in expensive clothes who stopped when everyone else walked by. He never imagined one night would change everything. But it had, because sometimes, when you're at your lowest, when you've lost everything and you're holding on by a thread, the universe sends you someone who whispers the exact words you need to hear. Come live with me. And if you're brave enough to say yes, if you're brave enough to accept help, to believe in goodness again, sometimes that whisper turns into forever. Daniel smiled, picked up his hammer, and kept building. Because he had a family now, a real one, and together they were building something that would last.